This morning, the President of the United States posted to Truth Social the vulgar post I'm sure you have seen by now with an F-bomb and a quote, "Praise be to Allah." Now compare that to another president who led America through a war, Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural, ending with these words, "With malice towards none, with charity for all." It's quite a stark difference, which brings us to a part of the Constitution most Americans have never had reason to think about. Section 4 of the 25th Amendment, which says if the vice president and a majority of the cabinet decide the president is unable to do the job, they can notify Congress and the vice president takes over as acting president immediately. It has never been used in American history before, and it's an extremely high bar to get there. But this morning, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy posted this online, quote, "If I were in Trump's cabinet, I would spend Easter calling constitutional lawyers about the 25th Amendment." And our next guest writes this, quote, "I wonder very much what the next few days will bring, because this is looking like basically a president who is losing it, and unfortunately losing it in a way that can really make the world a much worse place very fast." Joining us now is Paul Krugman, a Nobel laureate, research professor of economics at CUNY's Graduate Center and author of the Paul Krugman Substack. Paul, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you for making time for us. Give us the explanation behind how you got to that conclusion and made that point about what is going to happen in the next few days and why it could be so dangerous, not just for America, but for the world.
Okay, first thing to say is that these two posts and some other things that Trump has said in interviews and in the last few days, they are completely unhinged. They are, before we get into his mental state, let's just say that he is now threatening violence against innocent civilians because he's unable to get what he wants militarily. And we have a name for people who use violence against innocent people because because they're too weak to get what they want militarily. We call them terrorists. So, I've been looking at the definitions, ICE's definition of terrorism, and what the President of the United States has been saying the past couple of days really fits the definition of terrorism as his own officials write it down. So this is horrifying. And the reason I'm saying 25th Amendment and all that is the instability. I mean, just a few days ago, he was saying, we've won and we don't need to open the Strait of Hormuz. That's up to other people. And now, just a couple of days later, he's saying, wow, we're going to destroy Iran's power plants and its bridges. We're going to bomb them back into the Stone Ages, he's using turns of phrase that are very unlike him. I mean, the first post said "Glory be to God." The second one concluded "Allah Akbar." This doesn't. Either he's having major personality disorder, or somebody else is largely writing it. So this is really horrifying. And this is to have somebody who is that unhinged and unstable in control of the armed forces of the United States is a really horrifying thing.
Paul, you mentioned Tim Snyder's argument that much of this could be a pretext for something else. Why do you believe that?
Yeah, Tim Snyder. Now, I'm reluctant to go there, but Trump has ordered this, called for in his budget, not ordered, he can't do that, we don't think, an enormous increase in military spending for, no clear purpose, but it's something that will make Army officers happy. And there's this, what we're seeing is a lot of, we're seeing the Pete Hegseth, the self-proclaimed Secretary of War, firing senior officers in the middle of a war. And seemingly what sure looks like loyalty tests being imposed within the military, personal loyalty tests. It's not too hard to think that something is going to, that there's certainly some intention to try to somehow circumvent or at least rig the midterm elections. Now, I don't know that. I mean, what we can see right off is that this guy, that I wouldn't trust someone who raves on social media the way the President of the United States does. I wouldn't trust him to run the bodega around the corner. I wouldn't trust him to watch my cat. And to have him watching the military of the United States is just, this should not be allowed to persist. If we had a functioning democracy, he would be out one way or another. Yesterday.
Paul, you said you don't trust him to run the bodega or watch your cat. He also has quite a bit of influence over the global economy, as well as lots of munitions. I'm wondering what you make of this term that I've been hearing a lot recently, the polycrisis, the idea that we might have a few different economic, maybe time bombs is the wrong word, given that there's an actual war going on, but basically metaphorical time bombs about to go off because you have the war, you have the AI boom / bubble propping up much of the economy. Who knows how sustainable that is. And you also have some potential trouble in a corner of the financial market called private credit. How worried are you about the potential for a major economic disruption beyond just energy markets right now, and the administration's ability to handle the fallout should they get unlucky on any one of those measures?
I'm a little bit worried about financial fragility. I don't see smoking guns the way a lot of us did before the 2008 crisis. It's not as clear, but it's certainly true that the financial system has gotten less. We've had a real growth in shadow banks, in things that in many ways are like banks but are not regulated, not secured like banks, and that creates a worry that any really major shock can have a lot of repercussions beyond the shock itself. And the energy crisis is terrifying. I mean, this is 20% of the world's oil was flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. The prices of oil that you see all the time, I know that you, Catherine, have noticed this too, are not the price of an actual physical barrel of oil. The price of an actual physical barrel of oil has gone completely sky high right now, and that has ramifications everywhere. Not just the price of gas at the pump. In some ways, that's the least of it. It's the price of diesel fuel, of jet fuel, shortages of helium, which is really used in a lot of stuff. So, it would be great if we had a completely robust financial situation to deal with this. We don't. And then, if we do have an economic crisis, the people who brought you this war in Iran will also be in charge of trying to manage the economic crisis. So how happy are you at that prospect? So no, I don't like polycrisis. I happen to not like the term because it kind of seems to me to be a cop-out, lacking in specificity. But the idea that there's a lot that can go wrong, for sure.
Paul Krugman, thank you so much. It's great to have you and your expertise.